Guess I'm not going live because I had it sitting up here too long. Hold on.
It says now live stream.
Okay, we are live. Cool. All right. Peace, peace, peace. Shalom, family. Shalom. How y'all doing? Hope everybody's having a good morning. I am the Anonymous Hebrew, and I'm here this morning introducing my brothers. I'm going to give them a second, but today my brothers will be having a discussion on, is the Bible anti-African? This is something that is a hot topic right now going around. And I think these brothers are going to go ahead and bring out some real unique perspectives to prove, well, you know what, I'll let them get into their premise. But I do think that this is a great topic that needs to be spoken of. And so without further ado, I will go ahead and introduce my brothers. The first guest that we have this morning will be the brother, the Orthodox Moor. How you doing, sir?
All is well. Shalom, family. How you living?
Shalom, fam. You know, I'm good, man. I'm praised. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. All praise to the Most High, you know.
Yes, sir.
Just excited to hear what you brothers gonna bring out. The other brother, and yes, I said brother, that I have the privilege of introducing is our brother Dayvaughn Mays. How you doing, Ot?
Shalom, shalom, Anonymous. Shalom, Orthodox Moor. I'm good. All praise to the Most High, God of Israel. Glad to be here.
Hallelujah, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
So I want to take a second real quick so you guys can kind of, you know, don't gotta go into detail, but kind of just explain not how it came about, but why this conversation needs to be had. If you want to go ahead and explain that a little bit more.
Man, so for people paying attention to the conscious community and stuff going on in the debate world and just in conversations, period, the concept of the Bible being anti-African or it being the so-called a book of the so-called white man or it being detrimental to our people is something that's really getting banged on right now, and it's getting pushed to the forefront. And so, I'm in a debate league. Anonymous is in a debate league. This is debate talk. You people debate over here all day. When we see these concepts pop up all the time and whatnot, and I've been noticing a bunch of fallacies in there and a lot of arguments being made and a lot of insincerity in the arguments being made that needed to be addressed and whatnot. And so we're here trying to address some of them because it's fallacious on its face and it's disingenuous for the people. You got a lot of people out here who are pushing doctrines and ideologies and getting paid off of it. And it's here's the cold part. They want to talk about people, you know what I'm saying, getting led astray like by like the Reverend Chickenfoot kind of concept, right? But at the same point in time, they're actually copying that model and pushing it in front of you and you don't even recognize it. They got a model to where they just hate on religion or hate on people with a belief system and don't offer you anything in return. And so that needs to be addressed. And so people like me, Brother Dayvaughn Mays, even Brother Anonymous Hebrew are here to address stuff like that.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. That is that's legit. I'm in the process of fixing this title for you brothers too. For whatever reason, it came up with another title, so I'm working on that. Dayvaughn, did you want to expound a little bit as to why you believe that this conversation needs to be had?
Yeah, to just to feed on what Moore is saying, if you're gonna try to take away something from people, you got to be able to replace it with something just as good or better. I mean, that's just the way things work. If I tell you, hey man, you should stop drinking Starbucks, but now that person still wants his coffee, then you gonna offer him something. What you gonna offer him? You got to give him some better coffee. You know what I'm saying? So if your goal was to try to help them, or you just want them to stop doing something just for the because, like what are you getting out of this? Because I'm seeing in the conscious community, this is even before these recent debates happened. You know what I mean? Even back in the day when people was pushing, oh, the Bible's the white man's, the Bible's anti this, the Bible's anti that. Mostly it's from people who read the Bible, who don't study it. They cherry pick verses. And what they don't realize is if you're going to be teaching something, first of all, you got to be living what you're talking about. So practice what you preach. And all the negativity does is drive people away from even trying to learn. If you say, look, man, you're doing this wrong and you don't offer them nothing right, then they just gonna be like, you know what, I'll give up on all that stuff then. But if you show them alternatives and work with them to show the benefits of the alternatives, then you at least got something going on. Even if you on some completely different stuff, like people coming out of, Buddhism and turning Hindu, and coming out of, putting the Tanakh down and becoming Buddhist, regardless, they feel that they've upgraded, or, saying that something has changed in their life. Whatever they be on this, that's a whole nother topic. But if you're just telling people, oh, the Bible's anti-African, now what you supposed to do? Follow you? What you want? Oh, I just do what I do. You know what I mean? It's Aleister Crowley, do what thou wilt. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Thank you.
If that's where it's going, you just introduce a whole nother doctrine to them, knowingly or unknowingly, which is going to actually be worse for them. Because if it's do what thou wilt, there's problems with that. That's a whole nother occult system that you just introduce them to. While you tell them to put this down, you told them to pick that up. So it definitely need to be addressed.
See, that's a great point right there too, because it's almost like they're banging on religion not because they think it came from the so-called white man, but because it actually has laws for them to follow, right? No matter which one it is. Like, so they got to bang on it just so they can do whatever they want to do and not have any kind of retribution for it. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. There's one aspect I could respect for people, and I do respect, and I understand when people are like, nah, man, we got that book through slavery and blah blah whoop. I can understand the whole slave Bible concept and whatever. I'm with that. But what I just want for my brethren who rep certain spiritual systems to recognize, or to give some respect to and some credence to, is the fact, like, okay, I can read this book one way and become docile and whatever. I understand what you're saying, but I can also read the same book and it can turn me into Nat Turner. You know what I'm saying? So have some respect for that. There's ways of looking at this, and this came up in some of my recent conversations, to where, like, basically, if you want to tell me that this book is anti-African and that this book is from the white man, etc., whatnot, the only way you can really credibly give me that argument is if you're looking at only European sources and you're not looking at any African sources whatsoever, because you're negating the fact that there's a completely separate African traditions with this same literature and with even different literature attached to it. You know
I completely agree with that. I didn't mean to cut you out.
No, go ahead.
Let me just say this. For every person you find that agree with you, you're going to find somebody else of equal caliber that disagree. So if you go find the biggest scholar that tell you this, you can find another scholar on the other side of the board that's going to tell you that. So it all comes down to what you're going to do, what's your study habits, and what are you going to apply to your life and your family, and what are people going to draw from that? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, anybody can find anything to support their arguments. And it's usually somebody that they don't even agree with all the way anyway. It's just they take a piece of what he said. It's like, see, he said this, but it's like, okay, so if you rock it with him, you rock with everything he say. And I'm not saying you have to, because we know, and everybody draws some sources that because everybody has disagreements within the Tanakh community, within Islam, within Christianity, within Buddhism. Like, everybody that's of a same genre still has disagreements among them, but they're usually not doctrinal. They're more traditional or customs. You know what I'm saying? So, but when it comes to this anti-Bible, it's just anti-Bible. You know what I'm saying? But when you ask these people, so what should we do since we put the Bible down? They start giving you concepts that come out of the scriptures. You know what I'm saying? I'm hearing people say, oh, well, we need to get our own land. We need to separate from this. Well, the Tanakh, that's what the word holy means, to be separate. So it's like, if you're going to shoot down something, don't draw from its sources.
Not just that, though. Shoot it down.
I was just going to say that last part he brought out is an excellent point as well, though. How you going to draw from the source of the thing that you're shooting down? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're going to really sit there and say that this Bible is anti-African, then you should completely step out of the Bible and go give us whatever it is, whatever information that you're trying to bring out. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's your goal to, quote unquote, enlighten us because we're just so antiquated in our beliefs, then go prove your point. But by all means, stay out of whatever it is you want to deem as, quote unquote, our book, because then it looks very foolish. Now we're just dealing with really some type of mental issue, if you're gonna ask me, but that's a whole nother concept. But yeah, that's an excellent point. So I'm gonna let the brothers the brothers start to build. I'm gonna fall back more, you know what it is. I'll still be in the loop, in and out. But I'm excited that you brothers have agreed to have this conversation today. Once again, to those that are just pulling into the build, the brothers are having a discussion on, is the Bible anti-African? And just so you clear that this is both of their perspectives, from the brother Orthodox Moor as well as Dayvaughn Mays, that know the Bible is not anti-African. And so they're going to go into that and bring out a lot of information that they've worked on. This is debate talk for you. So you guys go ahead and get fed this morning. Y'all got it out.
Yes, sir. So real quick, I wanted to add on to what they were just talking about. Like, so a big aspect of the argument is like, well, we're not taking from the Bible when we talk about this African stuff. The African stuff comes first. Y'all plagiarize stuff from the Bible and whatnot. I'm, you know what? I can completely respect that argument if you come at me with some honesty and some intellectual honesty, and you break it down factually for me. A lot of people like to say we stole stuff and we plagiarized stuff from the walls of Kemet, etc. Okay, let's have the conversation. And again, like I'm saying, let's have the conversation respectfully, understanding that we're all people with a spiritual, like we all went through slavery. Our people went through slavery, right? We're all people with a personal and spiritual amnesia, and we're trying to connect back to whatever we think is where we come from and all that type of stuff, right? So out of respect for that, I'm like, you're telling me where I'm trying to connect to is not correct, and what I connect to plagiarized off of where you connect to. I can understand that from one level, but at the same point in time, looking at it from my perspective, prove it to me real quick, not just conjecturally. Prove it to me. Like, so if I'm lost, give me the proof to show me that I'm lost. But when I return fire with proof as well, deal with it. You know what I'm saying? And deal with it with the heart of trying to get somebody out of something that you think is wrong for them, versus trying to just wag a finger at me and whatnot. Because when I listen to a lot of people's arguments, it's emotional in the sense that we're like I'm trying to crush their world by just returning fire with a legitimate argument. I'm not trying to smash your world. I'm trying to have you explain to me why what I'm talking about doesn't exist. And so with that, I'm saying I need you to apply the same scrutiny to your own arguments that you apply to mine. Because when I try to apply the same scrutiny, there's pushback, and we're not going to get anywhere in that conversation. Man. It gets emotional after that. Like I can't take you seriously. You're not taking me seriously at the outset. It's pointless. I'm saying let's have the conversation and let's have it intellectually, honestly, and whatnot. Because I'm not telling you can't have what you have. If you want to go back to certain African spiritual systems, go ahead. I'm not going to, bro. That's between you and whatever you want to believe in. It don't make me lose not one iota of sleep at night. You feel me? I'm cool with me and my God all day, without you having to be cool with me and my God. Right? It is what it is, and I'm not mad at you for having an identity you connect to either. You know what I'm saying? All I care about is that you connect to something and that you have a moral code that you can connect to, and we can talk about your moral code. But when we talk about your moral code, don't tell me that, oh, your moral code is ripped off of my moral code and blah, blah, blah. Like, bro, if there's similarities, how come we can't just walk in morality together? But moving on, you know what I'm saying? I wanted to deal I want to start by dealing with the basic outlook as to where people get this concept from, is the Bible being anti-African and whatnot. And like I said, it really comes from a context of not understand or of only going through European sources. And so, like I said, as a people going through waking up from amnesia in the sense to where like we went through slavery, etc. We have to parse the information that we're getting in the mindsets that we have. Like, okay, where were we told this? Where did we get this information from? Just like people want to scrutinize the Bible, you got to just because it's so-called came from the slave master, etc. and whatnot. You got to scrutinize your perception of the Bible because of that same concept, right? It's only fair. So a lot of people look at this. Hold on, let me share my screen real quick. Bam, bam. Ooh. A lot of people. There we go. I'm on the wrong one. Excuse me. I had a recent debate where I pulled out these notes real quick, and I'm gonna give you the basic premise for my debate and my basic counter premise. And the concepts go like this. For me, the Bible is not anti-African because nowhere in the scrolls do I see the Bible demonizing and denigrating Africans or people called Hamites, the descendants of Ham, simply for being the descendants of Ham. A lot of people think that there's this curse of Ham in the Bible, and that Europeans used this curse of Ham as an excuse to enslave us, etc., and that they can point to it in the Bible and blah blah blah. All right, cool. If you think it's there, show it to me. If you think it's there, show it to me, and let's talk about it. I broke down the fact that my premise that I don't think that the Bible's anti-African because the Bible does not depict Africans/Hamites as inherently evil or beyond the bounds of righteousness just for being the descendants of Ham. And again, in my debate, I broke down this concept of the Bible preserving common culture and customs with African peoples, i.e., like a concept of monotheism and whatnot. A lot of people like to say, like, oh, well, Akhenaten was the first monotheist and whatnot. Well, technically not, man. Like when you look at the timelines, like, so again, we can definitely see that Israel is an historical group of people via the Egyptians and whatnot. We can see the Hezekiah seal. You know what I'm saying? We can also see artifacts for King Tarhaka and whatnot, who goes up and defends the Israelites against the Assyrians and whatnot. So we know that there's an historical dealings with the people and whatnot. So we can't say that the Israelites are not there and whatnot. So if you actually follow the timeline, well, Akhenaten is way after when we're talking about we get the laws from God and whatnot when we're dealing with monotheism and whatnot. So even then you you can't necessarily make the claim that he's the first monotheist. You have to prove that he's the first monotheist. And that's the point we're getting to, family. Like, a lot of people are using like a lot of arguments from the 1990s and whatnot, from a lot of our great scholars from the conscious community and whatnot, right? But they're not really looking at them from 2019 eyes. And there's nothing wrong with the research that our elders did and whatnot. Nothing wrong at all. But even our elders told us to look at things a little bit different than what we're looking at them at. You know what I'm saying? Like so I cited in the debate that in 1992, Dr. Ben broke down in a public speech and whatnot that they found the 42 negative confessions of Ma'at. Cool. But the way that they're worded is that they're in negative confessions. Goddess Ma'at, I have not done X, I have not done Y, I have not done Z. And he said what stands to reason is that they still have yet to find the positive affirmations coming from the God. Thou shalt not do X, thou shalt not do Y, thou shalt not do Z. And so this also becomes pertinent because in the literature of Kemet, it talks about Jehudi or Tahuti, the scribe of wisdom in a lot of situations, right? He's saying that he was in the company of the gods writing down the laws that they're from them. So there is supposed to be a transmission from the God saying, thou shalt not, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. And they don't have that. They don't have any original transmission. And on top of that, the oldest concept that they have talking about the negative confessions of Ma'at, they're younger than the Akhenaten concept, which again is younger than the concept of monotheism coming from the Israelite culture. So when people are making this argument, they really got to be intellectually honest and whatnot. And really start applying the same scrutiny to their arguments that they're applying elsewhere, because it doesn't hold up. One of the main things that they deal with, hold on, let me find this real quick. One of the main things people deal with is a timeline of manuscripts and saying like, oh, see, you had to take this from us. You had to take this from us. Again, let's really, really, really deal with that. Let's really get into that. Because again, I can hear what you're saying if what you're saying lines up to fact. But if what you're presenting me doesn't line up and I hit you with the question, don't look at me with the side eye. I got every right to give you a question. So let's check this out real quick. They like to tell us about this timeline of, okay, again, the Papyrus of Ani is where they get the negative confessions of Ma'at from. That's 1250 BC, right? Cool, got it, coach. The instructions of Amenemope, they like to say that we got some problems from that. That's cool. 13 to 1300 BC, 7 to 1075 BC. Cool. Him to the Yatin. They say we got all the Psalm 94 from that, right? Somewhere in between 1353 BC and 1334 BC. Cool. Maxes of Ptahhotep. They say we got some proverbs from that. That goes back to 2375 BC to 2345 BC. Cool. Got it, coach. Now, what they won't tell you is all of this is fragmentary information. The stuff they get from the Maxims of Ptah, the Hymn to the Yatin, all this, they don't have original documentation for what they're talking about. You need to understand this. So again, when they're talking about us taking the laws of Ma'at from them, they're talking about 1250 BC. This is after the concept of monotheism even shows up in Egypt. That's documented to where they try to convert on a mass scale to it. Not to where it shows up, but where they convert as a state religion, right? But again, when you look at the timeline, this is well after. Again, so just so y'all know, like people talk about the flood happening like 3000 BC for us in the biblical timeline, or Abraham going into Egypt at like 2000, 1900 BC, etc. And at 1500 BC, you have the Moses story, etc. Right? So when you're linking up the timelines, you gotta make your claims match up the timeline you're placing on me, because that's the timeline they'll place on me, right? And then tell me that this matches up to, like, that don't match up for nothing. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? And then your scholar's going to tell you we don't have the originals either, and we're still looking for when the laws got transmitted by the God. Whoa, slow down. So if Dr. Ben's telling you to slow down, why are you hitting the gas pedal? Why are you waving your finger at me telling me that I'm plagiarizing? But here's the other part of the conversation I really need y'all to understand. So when was Kemet monotheistic? We see it at this time period here. We see it the 14th century BC, right? But then it was made illegal to be monotheistic in Kemet. The way of looking at that religion became illegal. And what I stipulated to people was the fact that we actually in the Bible preserve the concepts of monotheism that were practiced in Kemet and whatnot in a sister type fashion, in a sense to where you can see to where the concepts match up from one group of people to the next. And in the Bible, there's this concept of the fact that Egypt is called my people, and the fact that they will get sent a savior in the latter days, right? So the Bible even says that the Egyptians will link up to a monotheism in one shape or another. So the question is, are you saying that Akhenaten was anti-African because he rocked the monotheism? Did the white man give it to him? Like, we really got to start really analyzing these arguments. Real quick, Dayvaughn, is there anything you want to say about this?
Man, I mean, that the point with Akhenaten itself, because that's one of the famous arguments is, well, Akhenaten did it after all these other pharaohs came. Well, again, did he get his concept from the white man? Was that anti-African, or was he trying to, consolidate the kingdom to say, look, everybody's on all these 50,000 gods, let's isolate. Even if it's talking about the sun, in their mind, to the average person that's not familiar, like a lot of people was ignorant and stuff back then. They didn't have access to stuff only the elite had, were the writers and stuff. The sun would make sense as being God. It's the biggest thing in the sky. Life comes from it. We know the whole thing. We know they was up on science and stuff. So, in the primitive time like that, it would make sense that would be the one true God, and all these other gods would just be the concept to the people. And of course, I'm sure there's different, theories surrounding, how they actually viewed the sun. But I mean, the way you just broke down these time frames and when it was given, and they try to place it on us as if, we just be taken from everybody else, and it's anti-African the way we get down. It's just not there. So I think that was a great point you made.
Right, but they also to count back on what you just said, like they left to throw at us the verse that says, "My God is a sun and a shield," right?
Oh my goodness, right.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so
but they
if we have
ignore, right. Go ahead,
go,
go ahead.
no, go.
They ignore where it says he created the sun. And of course, the Torah is full of poetry and metaphors. You know what I'm saying? So if that's the case, every time God says he's a sun and a shield, what does that mean? I bring light. I'm powerful. I'm a life giver. I protect you. That's all this means. As if they are not familiar with poetry. I mean, today when the rappers say all these things, do they really think that person is that? No. Nas got a song. Nas is like. He's like all kinds of stuff. It's poetry. It's metaphors. Come on now, with the hip hop mind, they should recognize this.
Right, but we're not allowed to have anthropomorphic imagery in our literature because we're supposed to be like a kindergarten religion that came from the so-called white man again. You know what I'm saying? But again, here's what I'm saying. Like, so again, Akhenaten was studying the literature of all the previous pharaohs, etc. He had the Sabaite literature, all that type of stuff. He had the maxims of Ptah-hotep. He had the pyramid text, all that type of stuff, right? The book of coming forth by day, all that, right? And he said, you know what? I'm looking at this concept that y'all talking about, and I think y'all got this messed up, man. Like, I'm going back, I'm looking at this I-10 concept, and when you look at the I-10, ironically, the oldest story in Kemet talking about the I-10 that they have, it's about a person that goes to the Levant and deals with people over there. Just go anyway. That's a whole side step. Anyway, y'all should go check that one out. But he's like, man, no, there's this whole oneness here. Y'all are missing this oneness, and y'all are falling off because of that, right? And a cool thing happens. He looks almost just like an Israelite prophet. He starts saying, no, it's one God. You can't have no idols, no images of that God. We gotta take down your idols and whatnot, and starts removing things off the walls of Kemet and whatnot, particularly like the stuff having to do with the moon and other gods and whatnot. And he tells people, no, we got this oneness that we're dealing with, and they deal with that for a couple of decades. And when they're done with it, though, when he passes on and whatnot, they eradicate the concept. They make it illegal, and then you see just like what you see in the scrolls in our Bible, right? Kemet fell and never recovered from it. Just like what our scrolls say, that like just where it says like Kemet, like Egypt is my people and that they'll get a savior. It says that I will break Kemet, or I will break Egypt, and I will heal Egypt, right? That they're going to be broken because of this fact that they rejected the one God, but they'll be healed at one point, that they will accept it and call on God's name and whatnot. So like I don't understand how a book that talks about the fall and the rise of Egypt and Egypt being God's people is anti-African in any way, shape, or form. A book that says do not abhor an Egyptian because you are a stranger in their land. I don't know how that's anti-African.
Right. Just to touch on what you brought up about the God is the sun and the shield, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is Ezekiel 8:16. He then brought me into the inner court of the house of the Lord, and there at the entrance of the temple, between the portico and the altar, were about 25 men with their backs toward the temple of the Lord and their faces toward the east. They were bowing down to the sun in the east. He said to me, have you seen this, son of man? Is it a trivial matter for the people of Judah to do the detestable things they are doing here? So if God was the sun, he said it's detestable to worship him. He just said, so, you know what I'm saying? Like you can't pick out what you want to see and just run with that. You got to put everything in context. Deuteronomy 4:19. And when you look up to the sky and see the sun, the moon, and the stars, all the heavenly array, do not be enticed into bowing down to them. So if he was the sun, he's telling you don't worship me. So these dudes who come up with these concepts, they don't read these books, man. They find a verse that supports their argument and they completely take it out of context.
Right.
So that's dead right there.
Another thing that they like to say is like, oh, well, the Bible's anti-African because it says that Egypt enslaved the Israelites and all that type of stuff. Like, man, like, okay, I'm with you. I hear certain people's arguments because, you know, they watch Charlton Heston movies and a whole bunch of other stuff and whatnot, and they get all caught up in American culture and whatnot, and they think they know what they're reading. And some people even claim to be Torah only and think they know what they're reading, and then put this stuff down and go other places and whatnot, and don't really thumb through the scrolls. This is where I have respect for people like Dayvaughn May and other Torah only people, because like if you're gonna be Torah only, you gotta be in them scrolls, bruh. You really gotta be in depth, because you're talking about living by a law, specifically by a law and whatnot, and you can't really halfway parse that. You got to be fully aware of what the scrolls say on this. You know what I'm saying? You can't read like some of them over here, leave some of them over there, and study just a couple over here, just to make your lifestyle fit what you want. Because again, this brother Dayvaughn May was talking about, like, that's the whole concept to do, is that shall be the whole of the law. Like, that's not how this works. If you believe God has a set of laws, you listen to what God says about those laws. And in the scrolls, it stipulates that it was the Assyrian that afflicted us in Egypt. It was the Assyrian, just like it was King Tarhaka that had to come up from Ethiopia and defend us against the Assyrian. And King Tarhaka in our scrolls is saying, "Hey, man, God's not going to fail you. You're cool. God's not going to you're good money. Your God is straight. He's going to deliver you. Don't even worry about it." King Tarhaka is not disparaging about our God in the scrolls. We're not giving the so-called African a negative image of us in the scrolls, and we're definitely not giving a negative image of them. If they're coming to save us against the Assyrian, we say it was the Assyrian who afflicted us, and then we say don't abhor the Egyptian because we were a stranger in their land. Fam, just recognize your argument falls flat on his face. Then you're also going to tell me that Moses was learned in all the ways of the Egyptian, right? And then tell me that we plagiarized something. How does that work? Because plagiarism is you give no credit to something, right? You give no credit to something. And this is something that I actually brought out in my debate. Hold on, let me share my screen again. But I got into the linguistics of something, because a lot of people don't give credence to the fact that the Egyptian language, the Kemetic language, is an Afro-Asiatic language, and it's has a sistership with Hebrew, with Arabic, with all the Semitic languages and whatnot, right? And one of the concepts that I brought out was the fact that it literally says in our scrolls that the Torah is a myth, right? A myth is spelled the same way. It's like MT, right? It's spelled the same way you spell Ma'at. And it has the same meaning, basically, right? So check this out. The Encyclopedia Britannica defines Ma'at, or it breaks down Ma'at as this. Ma'at, also spelled Mayet in ancient Egyptian religion, is the personification of truth, justice, and the cosmic order. If you go to a concordance breaking down this concept of Emet in Hebrew, it tells you that it means stability, certainty, truth, trustworthiness, assuredness, establishment, faithful, right, sure, true, truly, truth, verity. Has the same conceptual meaning. So, Emet Ma'at. Emet Ma'at. It literally says in our scrolls, thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law, thy Torah, is the truth, is Emet, is Ma'at. It says again, Malachi 2:6, the law, the Torah of Emet, of Ma'at, was in his mouth, and iniquity was not found in his lips. He walked with me in peace and in equity, and did turn many away from iniquity. Nehemiah 9:13. Check this one out, fam. Thou camest down also upon Mount Sinai, and spakest with them from heaven, and gavest them right judgments and true, Emet, Ma'at, laws, Torah, good statutes and commandments. So it literally says in our scrolls that the law that came down to us on Mount Sinai was Ma'at. So a lot of people would be like, "Oh man, I can get 80 or 10 commandments, and I can line them up to the 42 negative confessions." All right, cool. What's your 42 negative confessions? They're linked to Ma'at. Cool, got it, coach. Well, it says that we say in our scrolls that our Torah is the same thing. But again, there's this concept over here. There's a monotheistic way of dealing with that. And y'all aren't paying credence to that. There's a legitimate way of looking at the same tradition as Egypt from a monotheistic, like, so this is the whole point. This is the whole point. You can go to Egypt, you can go to Mesopotamia, you can go to Arabia, right? And this you see the same thing happen in all three places. You'll see two groups of people looking at the same set of gods or God, and it'll be done from a polytheistic way or a monotheistic way. We're saying we come from a tradition that looks at God from a monotheistic way. And you can also see the same concept in Egypt. And you can see you can see to where we're saying we're looking at the same concept of truth and justice and cosmic order and whatnot. And we're saying that the laws that we got from God are the same concept, that they're truth, that they're justice, and that they're established righteousness. How is that anti-African? It's not. It's just a different perspective on African concepts, just like Akhenaten had. Just like Akhenaten had. And as a matter of fact, because for the simple fact that they outlawed Atenism and what Akhenaten brought, when you really look at it, the Bible is the only repository for an African concept of monotheism. It's the only preservation of African monotheism. Like, that's a big deal to say. Like, in all of African culture, in all of African history, and all of African spirituality, we're the only tradition that actually keeps alive that concept of African monotheism, or monotheism that came out of Africa, or that they can link to. That's huge. That's a big deal. That deserves some level of respect. Now, for some people who want to say that, like, oh, I don't connect to that, or that's Hamite, whatever, cool, whatever. You're there. Some people reject what their scrolls say about Egypt being God's people. That's on them. That's between them and their God. That ain't got nothing to do with me and God, and me reading what the book says. When I read the book, I'm looking for, at one point, the Egyptian people to get a savior that brings them back to this concept. Because, you know, when I look at my scrolls, I can see them talking about a ton, right? Well, when I do the lingual shift into Hebrew, we're talking about Adonai. We have the same concept. We have the same of one God being called Adonai, or Aton, in a sense, right? So I'm saying, and again, when you're looking at the timeline, this concept of where they get the oneness from, again, it shows up after our concept of oneness. After our concept of oneness. But falls in line. And then when you really look at the timeline, family, you got to understand something. Based upon the Amarna letters and a whole bunch of other things, this is the time period where basically Akhenaten has heard history of the Israelite people doing work in Canaan. Like displacing people, doing war in the name of the one God, all kind of stuff, and moving out people they shouldn't have no business moving out. You know what I'm saying? So, like, my man has a healthy reverence for the one God, historically speaking, for what's historically going on and what he historically just saw, what he's hearing tales of, what his father's people are telling him what's going on, all that type of stuff. What the old gray-headed people is talking about. Hey, man, the Israelite cat stuff. You see what they're doing? But anyway, you want to touch on that? Touch on anything, Dayvaughn?
Yeah. Man, great points you making, man. Going back to I want to go back to the flood story real quick, because most people, you know, say, well, you know, the Torah got a flood story, but so does the you know, Quetzalcoatl people. The people in Iran have a flood story. The people in Australia have a flood story, which is true. What that tells us is that everybody can't just be making up the same thing. You know what I mean? Of all things, a flood story, there's got to be something, because, you know, there's always some truth in a lot of the myths. So we're not surprised that everybody would have a flood story if this was in fact a true event. So now there are a lot of African scholars that actually recognize the flood. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say Mfudishi at one of the Kemetic conferences or something even brought up the flood. You know what I'm saying? And Zion Lex even quotes him on that. at the conference. So the fact that in our flood story, of course, it's Noah and his sons. Now Noah lived 350 years after the flood. So Noah was the source of everything prior to the flood. And of course, some of his sons too, you know what I'm saying? But the point is this: if whatever Noah taught the people, his sons spread out and taught whoever the children that they had, and they went all over the world. So of course they're going to take all the same stories, and then they're going to start changing, like we know how people's stories change, but they still have the exact same source. So if I'm your grandfather and I tell my three grandsons or whatever the same story, and he goes to China, one goes to New Zealand, and another one goes to America, they're going to take that same story. Now, generations later, when these grandkids meet up, you could say, oh, well, my grandpa told that story. You stole it from him. No, we all had the same source. We just haven't had any communication to recognize that it came from the same source. You got some different details. He got some different details. Customs changed. Still the same story. So, and one of the differences, our story comes to us from a prophet, not just from grandma and grandpa talking to each other. So our prophet Moses is the one who gives us our stories from Genesis to Deuteronomy. So now I'm not saying that the other cultures didn't have prophets, but they're not known as Moses is. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you could probably even argue that, but for the most part, everybody that studies these particular types of events in scriptures quotes Moses. And you might hear Tahuti's name come up. Besides that, you might just hear some pharaohs and stuff like that. But as far as the grand scribes, Tahuti's probably the only one that's going to get the credit of being known like Moses was. And I could be wrong about that, but just as far as the people in the circles that I've been in. And then I'm sure there's other people in these papyruses, names are mentioned, but I'm talking about the scale of their impact on the people. Now, speaking of prophets, the prophets that we have, because let me just say this real quick. All prophets don't tell the future. Some prophets just speak in their generation to the people, and some prophets are like spokesmen. Like it says, Aaron, your brother, was going to be your prophet. Nobody's running around quoting prophecies of Aaron, but Aaron was a spokesman for the people. So he was the one communicating to Pharaoh, because we know Moses had a stuttering problem and he didn't even want to go. But that's another story. So, but I just want to touch on this real quick. This is Malachi 3:15. But now we should call the arrogant blessed. Certainly evildoers prosper, and even when they put God to the test, they get away with it. Now it says we call the arrogant blessed. So that word arrogant or proud. They're basically the ones who run the world today. I'm talking about the homosexuals. That they have pride parades. Some translation says we call the happy blessed, or we call the proud happy. We call the proud happy. We call these arrogant people who have pride parades happy. That word happy, they've stolen the word gay and made it happy. Because when I was little, we used to sing the Flintstones, we have a gay all time. That had nothing to do with homosexuality. It says they certainly prosper as evildoers. And when they put God to the test, they get away with it. What people say, why is God letting all these people just take over stuff and giving them all this money and power? Everything is for a season. He created the wicked for the wicked day. So we see prophecy in our scrolls. We see prophecy in our books. We don't just have ethics. The Torah gives you history, gives you science, it gives you names, it gives you dates, gives you places. You can draw maps out of the contents in it. I mean, everything under the sun, you can find in the Torah. You know what I'm saying? As far as being anti-African, I mean, more before I go into this, anything you want to say? Because I got some stuff to go
into. Nah, go in, bro. You get money.
You sure? Okay.
Yeah, go in.
So, anti what basically means I'm completely against what you're on, right? When you're anti something, there's no love. You know what I mean? The Klan doesn't care if you got a drop of blood, you halfway mixed, you black from El Salvador, or you black from Zimbabwe. You black to them, they anti you. there is no room for giving a distinction of, well, he's not all the way black, or he's just a little light skinned. If you're not white like them, they don't like you. So we should have the same concept in the Tanakh or the Bible. Zechariah 9:7. They will no longer eat meat with the blood still in it or any other forbidden food. Any Philistine left alive will become a part of my people. They will be just one more tribe in Judah. The people of Ekron will become a part of my people as the Jebusites did. Now, anybody who knows the table of nations in Genesis chapter 10 knows the source of the Philistine and the Jebusites. These are Africans or Canaanites or Hamites, however you want to term that. Joshua, now where is Ekron? Joshua 13:1-3. Now Joshua was old and stricken in years, and the Lord said to him, thou art stricken in years, and there remaineth yet very much land to be possessed. This is the land that yet remaineth, all the borders of the Philistines, and all Geshurai, from Sihor, which is before Egypt, even unto the borders of Ekron, northward, which is counted as Canaanite. So it just told you the people of Ekron, which are counted as Canaanite, will become a part of my people as the Jebusites, the Canaanites, did. So how is God anti-Africans when he's telling you these same Africans that at one point in time, Israel was commanded to kick out of the land, will become part of his people? More, can you explain this to me?
I can't. I can't at all.
Okay. Now, and I'm sure some of this stuff more covered in his debate on this topic, but I'm going to be repeating some stuff. Deuteronomy 23:7. Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother. Thou shalt not abhor an Egyptian, because thou was a stranger in his land. Now, people say, well, God destroyed Egypt, gave them the plagues, all these things. Those was punishments because they did something that they wasn't supposed to do. When Israel is told in the commandments, you shall not steal and kidnap people either. When you take people and force them into bondage, that's not cool. So basically, if you're not supposed to abhor an Egyptian, if God hates them and is anti them, why is he telling you you can't hate on them? Right? The God of Israel, he's against sin. Skin color is not mentioned concerning why you're being punished. Did the brother Mike
cut out more?
No, I hear him just fine.
Hello, can you hear me? You good? I'm good?
Yeah, you're good. We're good.
Okay, okay. So it never says because you're white or because you're black, I'm going to punish you. No, that's not what's going on in the Tanakh. It's against the things you do. Throughout the scripture, it says, I will punish you according to your ways, not according to what I made you. Can the Cushite change his skin? For those who know the scriptures, if God put your soul in a body that's black or white, why would he punish you for that? You put me here. You know what I'm saying? You take your child, you set him in the backyard, and then you give him a whooping from being in the backyard. You put me here. Okay. Adam was made from dirt, red dirt, or Adamah. That's what the word means. Adamah means red dirt. He was punished for breaking the law. David and Esau were both described as ruddy or red. They were both punished. Esau for being the wicked nation he was, especially dealing with Israel. And David, we know David made a sin with Bathsheba. They were both punished, and they were not white. They were both of the same stock of Adam, or reddish, ruddy, Adamah. Ethiopia, Cush was punished. Egypt was punished. Israel had curses chased them around all countries from disobedience. This is not anti-African. This is you're not listening to me, I'm going to go upside your head. So if Israel got the same punishments or worse than all the other nations, where's the discrimination at? The Amorites were kicked out of Israel only after their sins accumulated. This is what it says. Genesis 15:16. But in the fourth generation, they shall come hither again, for the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full, meaning I'm having mercy on them. I don't want to destroy them, but I will. Ezekiel 18:21. But if a wicked person turns away from all the sins that they have committed and keeps all my decrees and does what is just and right, that person will surely live. They will not die. So we see if the Amorites if God was anti the Africans or the Amorites, he would have just kicked them out of the land and gave it to Abraham at that time. But he says their iniquity is not yet full. Meaning, I'm going to give you a chance to get your act right. Just like you tell the kids, don't make me come up there. That's a warning. Because the first time they got a line, if you want to went up there and did what you got to do, then, you know what I'm saying, there is no warning. You messed up, punishment comes. The Most High don't work like that. He says that his mercy, he's a God of mercy. 2 Kings 21:2. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord after the abominations of the heathen, whom the Lord cast out before the children of Israel. So we see the nations that lived in Israel before, or the land of Canaan, however you want to term that, before Israel got there, were cast out for the abominations they did. And what does the Most High say to Israel? Deuteronomy 28:21. The Lord will make the pestilence cleave unto thee until he have consumed thee from off the land. Same punishment the Amorites got is the same punishment Israel got. So where is the discrimination? 2 Kings 21:8. Neither will I make the feet of Israel move any more out of the land which I gave their fathers, only if they will observe to do according to all that I have commanded them. Only if. So there's rules to this. Ezekiel 14:13. Son of man, when the land sinneth against me by trespassing grievously, then I will stretch out my hand upon it and will break the staff of the bread thereof, and will send famine upon it, and I will cut off man and beast from it. We see this happen to Israel. We see this happen to Egypt. It happened to the whole world back in Genesis is why, and of all the nations, who saved everybody? Egypt. If God was so anti, why would he send the Pharaoh dreams to tell Joseph to get his people straight and be able to take care of the world? Because he didn't like them? He used Egypt to save the world so they wouldn't all starve. How is that anti-African? It should have been the opposite. He should say, you know what? The Europeans is the only ones going to have bread, and the Egyptians going to have to come to them. It didn't say that. It says only Egypt had bread, and everybody had to go to them. Their Pharaoh is the one who got the dream. Their Pharaoh is the one who was able to get the right person to put in place to set it up to where they have enough food for everybody. How come it wasn't somebody in Denmark or Belgium? It was in Egypt. Ezekiel 6:11. Thus said the Lord God, smite with thine hand and stamp with thy foot and say, alas, for all the evil abominations of the house of Israel, for they shall fall by the sword and by famine and by pestilence. There is no discrimination. Israel gets smacked just like everybody else for not listening. Amos 3:13-14. Hear ye and testify in the house of Jacob, said the Lord God, the God of hosts, that in the day that I shall visit the transgressions of Israel upon him, I will also visit the altars of Bethel, and the horns of the altar shall be cut off and fall to the ground. So again, the house of Israel will get visited for their transgressions. Israel don't get no pass. Yes, they call the chosen land, they call my people, but they get the work just like everybody else do. Psalm 8:56-59. Yet they tempted and provoked the Most High God, kept not his testimonies, but turned back and dealt unfaithfully like their fathers. They were turned aside like a deceitful bow, for they provoked him to anger with their high places and moved him to jealousy with their graven image. When God heard this, he was wroth and greatly abhorred Israel. He just told you don't abhor the Egyptians, but God himself is abhorring Israel. More, you want to touch on anything real quick?
Nah, go in, bro. Nah, go ahead, go in, bro. For real, I'm vibing it.
All right. Amos 4:11-12. I have overthrown some of you, as God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, and ye were as a firebrand plucked out of the burning, yet ye have not returned to me, said the Lord. So the Most High is saying, yep, I destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. And you, I should have destroyed. But again, there goes that mercy. Therefore, thus I will do unto thee, O Israel, because I will do this to thee, prepare to meet thy God. Since you didn't want to listen, I showed you mercy Now I'm going to come and see you. Or better yet, you're going to come see me. Where's the discrimination? Jeremiah 44:27. Behold, I will watch over them for evil and not for good. And all the men of Judah that are in the land of Egypt will be consumed by the sword and by the famine until there be an end of them. It didn't say I'm going to punish the Egyptians. It says I'm going to punish the people of Judah who run to Egypt because I told them not to go back there, trying to escape what I told was going to come upon them. So you see people in Egypt is like, damn, them Israelites is catching that work, trying to run up over here to get saved. Because it says in Deuteronomy, these curses will chase you and stick to you, cleave unto you. So they went to Egypt. Egypt didn't get destroyed, but the people of Judah did who ran there. Where's the discrimination? How come Egypt didn't get smashed too? Only the people who sin against the Most High. Those who sin against me will I visit, like it says in Exodus 32. Daniel 9:14. Therefore had the Lord watched upon the evil and brought it upon us, for the Lord our God is righteous in all his works which he doeth, for we obeyed not his voice. He sent out evil to them because they didn't listen. 2 Chronicles 14:12. So the Lord smote the Ethiopians before Asa and before Judah, and the Ethiopians fled. See, God is anti-African. He's killing the Ethiopians, the Africans. There's a war going on, and they fighting the king of Judah. Obviously, the Egyptians is out of line here. So I just showed you Israel being punished, and I'm showing you Ethiopians being punished. So let's keep it real, y'all. If you're going to use these arguments, know what you're talking about. Isaiah 5. This is a little bit, but it's going to draw the point even more. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes. This is Isaiah 5:21-30. And shrewd in their own sight. Woe to those who are heroes at drinking wine and valiant men in mixing strong drink, who acquit the guilty for a bribe and deprive the innocent of his right. Therefore, as the tongue of fire devours the stubble, and as the dry grass sinks down in the flame, so their root will be as rottenness, and their blossom go up like dust. For they have rejected the law of the Lord of hosts and have despised the word of the Holy One of Israel. Therefore, the anger of the Lord was kindled against his people, and he stretched out his hand against them and struck them. And the mountains quaked, and their corpses were as refuse in the midst of the streets. For all his anger has not turned away. For all this, his anger has not turned away, and his hand is stretched out still. He will raise a signal for nations far away and whistle for them from the ends of the earth. And behold, quickly, speedily they come. Now, basically, he's saying, since Israel's out of line, I'm going to bring somebody to put hands on you. So he is not anti-African when Israel is getting the same punishments and even worse at times. Now, this is something that it basically brings it to today. This is today. Not this scripture, but this concept. Check me out. Zechariah 14:21. Yeah, every pot in Jerusalem and Judah shall be holiness unto the Lord of hosts. And all they that sacrifice shall come and take them and see therein. And in that day, there shall no more be the Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts. Now, just for linguistics, the word Canaanite is also translated as businessman or merchants. So for those who want to play with the language, that's on you. We just gonna deal with the concept I'm talking about right now. Now it says there shall no more be a Canaanite in the house of the Lord. Now the reason is, what is Canaan known for in the scriptures in a lot of the cases that we're dealing with them concerning Israel? They're known for turning Israel away from the hearts of Israel away from the Most High. This is Psalm 106, 34-42. They did not destroy the nations concerning whom the Lord commanded them, but were mingled among the heathen and learned their works. They served their idols, which were a snare to them. Yeah, they sacrificed their sons and daughters unto devils and shed innocent blood, even the blood of their sons and daughters whom they sacrificed unto the idols of Canaan. And the land was polluted with blood, and they were defiled with their own works and went whoring with their own inventions. Therefore was the wrath of the Lord kindled against his people. And so as much that he abhorred his own inheritance and gave them into the hand of the heathen, and they hated them, and they that hated them ruled over them. Their enemies also oppressed them, and they were brought into subjection into their hand. So we see Israel specifically in this case following the Canaanites and polluting their land with blood, sacrificing their children, worshiping the idols of Canaan. Now, this is what it says in Deuteronomy 7, 1-5. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess, and hast cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which I read earlier, the Jebusites are going to be a part of the Most High's people. But 7 nations greater and mightier than thou, mightier than they. So if the Most High is so anti, how come he's making these nations so mighty and giving them kingdoms? Come on, man. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them from before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. For they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So the anger of the Lord will be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. But thus you shall deal with them. You shall destroy their altars and break down their images and cut down their groves and burn their graven images with fire. So why won't there be a Canaanite in the house of the Lord? Because Canaan is known to influence idolatry, just what we see today. The Canaanites are telling people to put the Tanakh down and worship a new God that the God your forefathers did not know, a God that cannot save. Isaiah 45:20. So this is why the Canaanites are a problem concerning their doctrine, not their skin color. Because Israel worshiped different gods, sacrificed their children in the fire. Manasseh did it. He was the king of Israel. He was actually the Messiah. He was a wicked Messiah. Nonetheless, he was the anointed king at the time. But Manasseh is known for sacrificing his children into the fire, worshiping idols, practicing witchcraft, everything that the Most High forbids. So when the Canaanite gets punished, Israel gets punished for this exact same thing, not because of what color they are. It's because of the sins they are committing. So let's just keep it way real, y'all. Let's keep it way real. So, Ezra 9:1. Now, when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the peoples of the land, doing according to their abominations, even the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. Now, again, this has nothing to do with their color. They're doing according to their abominations. God saved African nations from others, just like he saved Israel from Egypt. Amos 9:7. Are ye not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? So if God's so anti-African and Ethiopian or Cushite as African as you can get, how come he told Israel, are you not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, said the Lord? Have I not brought up Israel from the land of Egypt, and the Philistines from Caphtor, and the Syrians from Ker? He's telling you, I saved other nations too, just like I saved you out of Egypt. I don't like nobody doing nobody wrong. The Philistines is a known enemy of Israel, but he says he saved them from Caphtor. The Syrians, a known enemy of Israel, was saved from Kir. More, you want to touch on anything?
But I'm trying to let you breathe, bro. Like you going in.
Genesis. Bro, that's what I was saying. Like I've been back and I just been sitting here listening. Like go in then.
Genesis 10:8-10. And Cush begat Nimrod, and he began to be a mighty one in the earth. And he's a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord, and the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. So if the first king, according to the Tanakh of the world, of course there was other, there's always somebody before the flood. It doesn't specify who was ruling the lands and stuff, but as far as the mighty one in the earth, Nimrod from Cush. Now we know Nineveh, Babylon, Erech, Calneh, Shinar. These are all places that were seeded by the Cushites or African people. But God is so anti-African that he just let them have kingdoms all over the place. Why? If he's so anti-against them. For generations, they controlled these lands. Genesis 2:13. And the name of the second river is Gihon, and the same is it that encompassed the whole land of Ethiopia. Now, not to get into the history of all this, but it tells you that the Garden of Eden had a river that went around the whole land of Ethiopia or Kush. Why? How come it don't start in the UK? How come it don't say London? It don't say it encompassed the whole land of London. Ethiopia. Zephaniah 3:10. From beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, my suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed, shall bring mine offering. Beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, even the daughter of my dispersed shall bring mine offering. Why are people coming out of Ethiopia bringing God sacrifices if he is against them? Isaiah 11:11. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, from Egypt, from Pathros. I'm sure all the Comedics and whoever, and I'm not going to say it's just the Comedics that's saying the Bible is anti-African. I ain't going to do that because that's not true. There's plenty of Comedics that actually recognize scripture. But it says from Pathros and from Cush and from Elam and from Shinar and from Hamath and from the islands of the sea. So the Most High spread Israel into all these nations, and he's going to gather them. Psalm 68:31. Princes shall come out of Egypt. Ethiopia shall soon stretch out her hands unto God. Come on, y'all. He's anti these people who are stretching out their hands to him from Egypt and from Ethiopia. And how are they princes? How come it don't say slaves? It says princes. You don't make nobody a prince if you don't like them. You make them the lower class, subservient slaves. Moore touched on this a little earlier, but I'm going to go through a little bit more of the scriptures with it. Isaiah 19:19-25. In that day, there shall be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt. An altar to God in the midst of the land of Egypt. Some people say it's the pyramids, but that's for another discussion. I'm just saying some people say that. And a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord in Egypt. And it shall be for a sign and a witness for unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. For they shall cry unto the Lord because of the oppressors. So we see somebody oppressing Egypt. He shall send them a savior, just like he did Israel. Same thing. We know that the concept of measure for measure. Joshua conquered the land, and one of the kings said, just as I have cut off the thumbs and the fingers of kings, and they had to eat under my table, so God has done to me. So we see Israel being enslaved by the Egyptians, and now we see the Egyptians crying to the Most High, and that now they need a savior, just like it's saying in Exodus, and the children of Israel cried unto the Lord because of the bondage of the Egyptians, right? Now we see the same thing happen in Egypt, measure for measure. For they shall cry unto the Lord because of the oppressors, and he shall send them a savior, a great one. Now, that translation right there says rabbi, a rabbi, and he shall deliver them. And the Lord shall be known to Egypt, and the Egyptians shall know the Lord in that day. And they shall do sacrifice and oblation. Yeah, they shall vow a vow unto the Lord and perform it. And the Lord shall smite Egypt, and he shall smite it and heal it. And they shall return even to the Lord, and he shall be entreated of them and shall heal them. In that day there shall be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria, and the Assyrian shall come into Egypt, and the Egyptian into Assyria, and the Egyptian shall serve with the Assyrians. In that day there shall be the third with Egypt and Assyria, even a blessing in the midst of the land. So these Africans are going to get blessed, whom the Lord of hosts shall bless, saying, blessed be Egypt, my people, and the Assyrian, the work of my hands, and Israel, mine inheritance. Because we know Laban was called the Laban the Syrian, right? So Israel's the inheritance of the Most High. Assyria is the work of his hands, and Egypt is his people. How is that anti-African, y'all? How? It's just not there. This is almost like hate speech, but ignorant hate speech. Like it just doesn't make any sense. Now, we know that in the Gog and Magog war, there's going to be a lot of nations that come up against Israel. Some of them are African nations. So without going into the whole book of Ezekiel 38, I will mention this right here. Verse 17. Ezekiel 38:17. Thus said the Lord God, art thou he of whom I spoken in old time by my servants, the prophets of Israel, who prophesied in those days many years that I would bring thee against them? And it shall come to pass at the time when Gog shall come against the land of Israel, said the Lord God, that my fury should come up in my face. Now we know Gog and Magog is a host of nations. If you go back and read Ezekiel 38 and 39, it tells you all the nations: Sheba, Dedan, Tarshish. It says everybody's coming to take some spoil, right? This is basically what's going on. But this is what it says in Zechariah 14, the aftermath of that war. Then the survivors from all the nations that have attacked Jerusalem, this is Zechariah 14:16. Then the survivors from all the nations that have attacked Jerusalem will go up year after year to worship the King, the Lord Almighty, and to celebrate the Festival of Tabernacles. If any of the peoples of the earth do not go up to Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord Almighty, they will have no rain. If the Egyptian people who do not go up and take part, they will have no rain. The Lord will bring on them the plague he inflicts on the nations that do not go up to celebrate the Festival of Tabernacles. This will be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of the nations, of all the nations that do not go up to celebrate the Festival of Tabernacles. Now, Israel gets punished when they don't celebrate the Festival of Tabernacles. So again, no discrimination. Go back and read Leviticus 23, and the Most High says, these are my feasts. They're not the feasts of Israel. This is God's feast that he has prepared in order to teach us things, because we learn everything from the laws. So it says all the nations are going to keep the Feast of Tabernacles, and especially Egypt. Why? Because he don't want to punish them. Why? Because it says he does not desire the death of the wicked, but that they should turn from their sins and live. Ezekiel chapter 18. Go read Ezekiel 18 and read Ezekiel 33. Numbers 20 and 24. Aaron shall be gathered unto his people, for he shall not enter into the land which I gave unto the children of Israel, because you rebelled against my word at the water of Meribah. Now everybody knows Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, 3 prophets of Israel, did not enter into the land. Why? Because they didn't listen to God at one point in time, and he punished them. No discrimination. He let the Canaanites who were doing these abominations, the Amorites who were doing all this stuff, live in Israel for generations before he kicked them out. Yet his own people had 3 prophets that they didn't even go into the land because the Most High was upset with them. So how is that? Where's the discrimination there? That's like you a Crip, and 3 of your dogs you won't let, come to the barbecue, but you got Bloods up in there. But everybody talking about he's anti-Bloods. How come they get to kick it, but your own peoples can't even come in there because they done did something out of line? They in violation, as we like to say. Or back in the day when I was a knucklehead. So, Deuteronomy 2 and 5. Meddle not with them. For I
Bro,
will not...
time out. Yo, time out. I don't know. Yo, peace to the family. Just want to get quick update, station identification, because Dayvaughn is burning right now. Yo, Shalom family. Once again, this is Debate Talk for You. We got the brother Orthodox Moor, the brother Dayvaughn Mays. They having a quick little build on, is the Bible anti-African? All right, is the Bible anti-African? If you're listening, go ahead, and if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you have subscribed, go ahead and hit the like, hit that notification button, so that way we can let you know when we do start going live, because we will start doing a lot more of that. Yo, back to the lesson, brother. You can just keep going in the building. I just want to say you're doing an excellent job.
I appreciate you.
Yo, hallelujah. Those of y'all that think that the Bible is anti-African, the brother's doing a very sufficient job, just like the brother Moore did earlier, of explaining this concept that the Bible cannot be anti-African. Instead, they're showing that the Bible is anti-idolatry. Go ahead and deal with it.
All praise to the Most High. Psalm 83 and 18. So, where's I at? Okay, so Deuteronomy 2 and 5. Meddle not with them, for I will not give ye of their land, not as much as a foot breadth, because I have given Mount Seir unto Esau for possession. Now we see here that even though the Most High says that Esau and Edom are problems to Israel from inception, because we see Esau said that he will live by his sword and he's gonna kill his brother when his father dies. He got a whole plan to take out Israel. Before they even become a nation, he gonna kill their dad back in Genesis 27, I believe. So, but Israel is told they can't take none of their land because it's given to Esau. And we know there's a scripture says, do not move the marker of your forefathers. So if the Most High was so anti anybody else that's not Israel in the scripture, because some people hold Esau is the white man, some people hold Esau is the Arabians or the Muslims, like that's a whole nother discussion. But what I'm getting, the point I'm making here is Israel is not allowed to take stuff that doesn't belong to them, that's not given to them by the Most High. Because he said the world is mine. Exodus 19. The earth is mine. I created the universe. So, but I give stuff to who I give it to. Deuteronomy 2 and 9. The Lord said to me, distress not the Moabites, which are Canaanites, neither contend with them in battle, for I will not give thee of their land for possession, because I have given Ar unto the children of Lot for possession. So the children of Lot are Canaanites. Abraham's nephew Lot moved among the Canaanites. And for those who don't know, this is the lineage of King David. Yes, King David comes from the Canaanites. King David comes from the Moabites. So this is the lineage here that we're talking about here.
Start hating.
So why would the Most High use an African to be one of the most known kings of Israel?
Yo, he finna get you now. He finna make some people real mad now.
Why? It says David.
Go ahead in.
It says David was a man after his own heart. He gave David the kingdom, took it from Saul, told David, your seed and your seed will be blessed. Matter of fact, let me just read what he said to David. This is 2 Samuel 22 and 51. He gives great victories. He gives his king great victories. He shows unfaithful kindness to his anointed, to David and his descendants forever. So if David has this lineage that goes back to the Canaanites, because if you want to ignore that, we can go back to Judah, who took a wife of the Canaanites, is where Shelah comes from. So throughout history, Judah has dealt with the Canaanites, and this bloodline goes back there. If you want to just ignore David coming from Lot and try to play with Ruth wasn't a Moabitess and she was just living there. Okay, I heard that argument too. Fine. But it clearly says Judah took a Canaanite for a wife. And that genealogy went all the way through the Tanakh. So, which would link to Boaz and Obed and David's fathers. So, we see Israel's not allowed to take stuff that don't belong to them. Even if they was African, they couldn't take it. Proverbs 22 and 28. Remove not the ancient landmark which thy fathers have set. Now, Habakkuk 2 and 14. For the earth should be filled with the knowledge and the glory of the Lord as the waters covers the sea. So that means this knowledge is not going to be isolated in Israel. The whole world is going to get the knowledge of the Most High. It don't say except for Africa. We're going to keep them in the dark because they darkies. It don't say that.
Man, can you make that point again? The whole world is going to get what?
For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge and of the glory of the Lord as the waters covers the sea. The whole world. It don't say except for white people. It don't say except for the Chinese people. It don't say except for the Hamites. It don't say that. The whole world Zechariah 8:23. Thus said the Lord of hosts, in those days it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold out of all languages of the nations, even shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Jew or a Yahudim, however you want to go there with it, saying, we will go with you, for we have heard God is with you. It don't say except for the African. All nations and tongues, 10 people from each one. They want to know who the Most High is. Like we read earlier, Ethiopia and Egypt is going to stretch out their hands to the Most High. Micah 4:2. Many nations shall come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Israel. And he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. It don't say except for the black people, or the Caucasian, or the Asian. Many nations teach us his ways. Why would you gonna let people come into your school that you don't like? Can you go into a Klan meeting and say, hey man, teach me your doctrine? They anti you. So why is the Most High having the nations come to Jerusalem to get taught by Israel? Isaiah 42:6. I, the Lord, have called thee in righteousness and will hold thine hand and will keep thee and give thee for a covenant of the people as a light for the Gentiles. Now, what is this light? Let's go to Proverbs 6:23. For the command is a lamp and the law is a light, and correction and instruction are the way of life. So the nations is going to get that Torah to teach them how the Most High rocks with them. Isaiah 52:10. The Lord hath made bare his holy arm in the eyes of all nations. All the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. It don't say except for the Cushites or the Canaanites. All the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God. Isaiah 49:6. And he said, is it a light thing that thou should be a servant to raise up the tribes of Judah and to restore the preserved of Israel? I will also give thee for a light to the Gentiles, that they may be my salvation until the end of the earth. The whole earth is going to get the salvation if you turn and repent. And you could save yourself. Ezekiel 3:18-21 says, if you tell your brother, hey man, don't put in that work tonight, bro. Put the heat up, chill at the crib with your family. And he listens to you, you saved yourself in him. But if he still go out, put in work, go to jail, whatever, get killed, whatever, you saved yourself. You saved your own soul by telling somebody not to do the wrong thing. Isaiah 60:3. The Gentiles shall come to thy light, and the kings to the brightness of thy rising. Why is there still other kings? And we know there's plenty of people in the world that are African that have kingdoms to this day. There's kings and princes all over the place, not just Zamunda and Wakandia. I might have said that wrong. From y'all know Black Panther. So the Gentiles should come to your light. Zechariah 14:16. Again, the nations that survive the Gog and Magog war is going to go up to Jerusalem. There's no exceptions. Psalm 22:27. All the ends of the world shall remember and turn unto the Lord, and all the kindreds of the nations shall worship before thee. It don't say except the African. 22:28. For the kingdom is the Lord's. He is the governor among the nations. Psalm 86:9. All nations whom thou hast made shall come and worship before thee and glorify thy name. Now, I want to leave off on this one because I can keep going, but I want to break it down and chop it up with more anonymous. Jeremiah 39:16-18. Go and speak to Ebed Malik, the Ethiopian. Thus said the Lord of hosts, God of Israel, behold, I will bring my words upon this evil city, and not for good, and they shall be accomplished in that day before thee. But I will deliver thee in that day, said the Lord, and thou shalt not be given into the hand of the man whom thou art afraid. For I will deliver thee, and thou shalt not fall by the sword, but thy life shall be for a prey unto thee, because thou hast put thy trust in me, said the Lord. Now, what happened was Israel didn't want to listen. Jeremiah came, gave them the prophecies. They put Jeremiah in a dungeon. Ebed Malik got some people together, pulled Jeremiah up out of there. Now his life is in danger. But the Most High says, yep, I'm going to destroy the city. I'm going to bring evil upon it, but I got you. Why? Because you show love to my prophet and you trusted in me. You will live. More anonymous. It's on y'all.
Yeah, my man just dropped fire from the heavens right there.
Where the prophets of Baal at? Yo,
Yeah, my man just dropped fire from the heavens.
I'm finished writing some notes down. So y'all go ahead. You know what I'm saying? Y'all finish this up. Y'all keep going. I'm finish writing a couple things down real quick.
Yeah, there's a couple things I want to touch on. Like, one, I love how the brother was touching on the concept of righteousness and unrighteousness. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're righteous, you're cool, and if you're unrighteous, you get dealt with no matter who you are, no matter what nation you come from in the scrolls. And so I touched a lot on the concept of, like, it seems like a lot of people are trying to say that the Bible's anti-African just because Africans aren't made supreme just for being African. And the thing about it is, like, well, that's not how it's supposed to be via the concept of ma'at either. You know what I'm saying? The concept of ma'at is everyone gets the heart weight on the scales, and you got to say, I either did or did not do a righteous action. You know what I'm saying? The whole point is to stick to righteousness. And he was bringing up the lineage of David and whatnot. Now, the brother wasn't saying that David is a Canaanite. He was saying that there was a Canaanite in his lineage. You know what I'm saying? But at the same point in time, like that Canaanite Rahab, she's talked about as being righteous. Like it was counted under her righteousness for what she did. You know what I'm saying? So like, right. That's why I stipulated in my premise concept, the fact that there's no people in the scrolls that's said to be beyond the bounds of righteousness. Everybody has the ability to turn around and come to God. Like my brother talked about Ruth the Moabitess. You know what I'm saying? Her people were following other gods. She had a choice. She said, no. My people will be your people and your God will be my God. Right? That concept of turning towards God is for everybody. That's why, again, my brother read in the scrolls to where at one point Egypt will be healed. They get a savior. And they are called God's people. That they will call in the name of God. Etc., etc. He named a bunch of people. He named the Ethiopians a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. Again, like, so our scrolls tell us not to abhor an Egyptian because we were a stranger in their land. Like, so you're not hearing me, my brother, like banging on people like just because they hold concepts from Egypt or concepts from Africa or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna try to build with you based upon the concepts that I can build on that are monotheistic, right? If you can't build on them, cool. I'm not sure. We might have to draw a line of separation somewhere and be respectful about that. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. But at the same point in time, like, again, when we're talking about my tradition, or like if I was talking to you about your tradition, I'm going to try to be as respectful as possible in understanding what I'm talking about, right? Like, so let's talk about Egypt, right? Egypt, there's 101 traditions about everything, right? So for instance, there's multiple creation stories, right? There's multiple stories of morality, multiple stories of a whole bunch of things, right? But is it right for me to put all of them on you? If you say you believe the Egyptian concept? Nah, I gotta know what you're talking about. Because you might be talking about special lettuce on one side, or you might be talking about optimism on the other side, right? I don't know until I talk to you. I don't know until you break it down for me. So I agree. There's some Israelites and some people be like, you know what? I don't rock with Hamites. I don't rock. Cool. That's their concept, right? That's some people, right? That's the people. That's the individual. If you're telling me the book is anti-African, I need you to show me in the book. I need you to get the book from my hand, point to a page, point to a scripture, like this right here is letting me know that the book is saying that if you're a descendant of Ham, that you are evil, low down, no good, and you can't ever be redeemed. If you can't show me that, then I need you to recognize you're not making an intellectual argument. You're making an emotional argument. I can't help you with that part. The intellectual stuff we can have a discussion on all day. Because we can talk about all the scriptures my brother just read off, the scriptures I read off, the concepts we talked about. We can talk about that stuff and come to a reasonable end to a conversation. But if it's an emotional thing, that there's not much I can do for you. There's not much. I mean, I'm going to try to do for you because this is a waste of time. Like those folks say, man, don't argue with the fool because from a distance you don't know, you can't tell who the fool is. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to have a foolish conversation based upon emotion. I want to have, like, I'm too old for that. I want to have a fact-based conversation. So if you want to tell me that we plagiarized something, okay, first and foremost, I need you to show me original authorship. Like, so my man's like, I need you to show me the either the Egyptian prophet and or the original manuscript of the laws coming down from the gods, like Dr. Ben was talking about. If you show me that, I'm good money. If you can't show me that, I need you to recognize that you're in the same boat that I'm in. I can't show you my original manuscripts either. So, bam, like I need you to calm down real quick because we're in the same boat right now.
Hey, Moore, let me say something real quick. I want to touch on what you're talking about, this plagiarism.
Shoot, go ahead.
You can't plagiarize human nature. And I'll give you an example. If Africans were the first people on the earth, I'm just speaking for argument's sake, and they decided to they loved one another. Then you end up going to Spain, and people over there say, "Oh yeah, I love my wife." You can't love. That's what we do in Africa. You can't take something and make it solely yours. It's part of the human nature. So to plagiarize a concept of love and laws and ethics and how to treat people and doing the right things, that's not plagiarism. That's following your human emotions and human nature to want to do the right things. Now, if you created something and got a patent on it, like a computer, and somebody, was looking in your window and ran off and created the same thing and used your information to create something and make money off of, we know that's theft. That's, there's anti-patent laws. There's all types of things like that. But we're talking about things that are embedded in all of us. Love, hate, emotions, doing right and wrong. Don't lie, don't steal, don't kill. These are not things you can copyright. All lands, you should be happy that somebody knows the concept of love when you travel the world. You should be happy nobody else wants to steal from you. You should be happy that if you was an Egyptian and ended up in Israel and they was practicing the same laws as you, that they actually practicing them, opposed to being anti-you like you screaming that the Torah is. So that's just ridiculous by itself. Go ahead.
No, that's a fantastic point. Like, how can you be the author of something like love? How can you be the author? Like, so this is what I'm saying. Are we now the author of God's laws? Is that the claim that was even made in Egypt, that they were the author of God's laws? Or did they say, again, their scrolls that they were talking about, and Brother Zion Lex has a great video about this where he talks about, where he breaks down the fact that that Tahudi was talking about the fact that he scribed down the laws that were orated by the gods in their presence. Like, there's like, even Kemet says that the laws come from God. Like, so did God not talk to everybody? Like, even in the Egyptian concepts, like even in some of their scrolls there, they talk about a universality in their concepts of God and man being equal. A lot of stuff that Brother Dayvaughn was talking about, just like what we talk about, like Abraham. So Abraham, check this out. Abraham's is like, it says that his wife is Canaanite, right? In the sense that, like, it says that in Ezekiel 16:3, the father was an Amorite, the wife, the mother Hittite, right? And when you look at the story, Sarah, like Abraham goes out of his way to bury Sarah in a Hittite field. You know what I'm saying? Out of his way. So one wife is Canaanite. She's a Hamitic. She's a Hamite. She's African. Okay. Hagar, second wife. She's Egyptian. She's African. She's Semitic. She's a Hamite. Third wife, Keturah. Her children are like her descendants are called Ethiopians. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, and it says that through his seed, the whole world will be blessed. So, like, let's stop playing like it's an anti-African concept. Like, you got to admit that you got that from a European somewhere.
Hey,
and when
let me jump in real fast.
Jump in.
Real quick, because you brought up Hagar, and we're going to talk about Ishmael. Ishmael had 12 sons, and they was all blessed, just like Israel had the 12 sons. So if you anti something, you're not going to give somebody exactly what you give the person you love, are you? It doesn't work like that. If anything, it should have said Ishmael will be childless. You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you give Ishmael?
And Abraham went to God and was like, "Nah, can you bless him though?"
Right, show him.
Can you bless him though? Yeah.
And he said, because he is your seed, I will bless him also. And we see who what the outcome of that is. You go to Saudi Arabia, we see billionaires. We see, I forget his name, but it's one of the most richest kings that ever lived. African king. I can't think of his name. I think it starts with, is it Beneto, or I might be messing that up. But anyway, we see Africans having the wisdom and the knowledge and technology and all these things, able to build the tower. Whether you want to call them wicked or not, they had the capacity of a great people. And the Most High says, if they work together, nothing that they will do they will be unstoppable. You don't give that type of thing to somebody you hate. That just doesn't work like that. Go ahead, Moore.
Yeah. You know, one thing I really want to break down is this concept of where people get the information from. Because like I keep saying, like I was leaving off, like you gotta be using just European information, because when you do the knowledge on it, okay, there is the biblical liturgical practice and history that goes through Rome and Greece and all that. I'm completely with that. But then there's another liturgical system that does not deal with it whatsoever. And that's like, so my brother's a Torah only, whatnot. I heavily rely on the Torah, whatnot. I'm gonna talk about specifically the Ethiopian Israelite liturgical system. There's the Christian system that everyone knows. Yeah, cool, got that. But I'm talking about specifically the Israelite, the Jewish system, right? They have scrolls that no other people have in their Bibles and whatnot, and nobody told them what to put in their Bible. You know what I'm saying? And in modern day Israel, when people look at them, they're like, "Wow, them cats have a practice that looks straight out the Second Temple system. Like they look straight out the Second Temple era. Like we don't even do that stuff. Like they don't talk to each other on the Sabbath. Like they don't say a single, like they don't talk to each other on the Sabbath. They keep it real with it. You know what I'm saying? Like Israelis, like, whoa, they're extra strict. We don't know nothing about that. Like that's a tradition. Again, all liturgical systems agree that the Old Testament was translated into their system from Hebrew. Same. So the Greek system says this. The Syriac system says this, and just recently, Ethiopian Hebrews came up to Israel just out of nowhere and was like, "Check this out, y'all need this," and dropped off to them a Torah that they had translated into Ge'ez centuries beforehand from Hebrew. They had it in the oral tradition. They still have yet to date that in Israel, family. They're sloughing on it. They had it for 3 years. They ain't trying to carve that joint for nothing. Right? They have a tradition though that goes back to the Dead Sea Scrolls and other stuff, right? They have the Book of Jubilees in their breakdown, right? And the Book of Jubilees talks about the curse of Canaan, because a lot of people talk about the Bible's anti-African because of the curse of Canaan. And my brother he read off a bunch of stuff about Canaan, about how it's not anti-African, right? He was talking about like how you'll find Canaanites in the blood lineage of messiahs and kings. Like that's serious. Like, so to say that the book's anti-African because of the Canaanite concept, and for my brother to point out that the lineage of messiahs and kings has the blood of Canaanites in it, like that's a big deal. That's a real big deal. So here's what I'm saying. In this Book of Jubilees that the Ethiopians talk about, they have a concept of how Canaan got cursed and why Canaan got cursed and what the curse actually is. However, we don't hear that. We don't hear that at all. what we hear in America, and having gone through slavery and all kind of stuff, is the European perspective on this, right? And I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Just get into this just a little bit. So most of us see this concept of from Genesis 9:20 through 27, where it breaks down. And Noah began to be a husbandman, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and was drunken, and was uncovered within his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and told his two brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon their both their shoulders, and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father. And their faces were backward, and they saw not their father's nakedness. And Noah awoke from his wine, and knew what his younger son had done unto him. And he said, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren." And he said, "Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant." Now, reading this, automatically people start getting pictures in their head as to what they think happened. And the question you got to ask yourself is, did I make those pictures? Did I formulate them pictures, or were they placed there by conjecture, by outside sources and whatnot? A lot of people start making assumptions. I ask people like, what happened? What do you think happened there? Like, what was the situation there? What was the cursing? Why was somebody cursed, etc., and whatnot? And people they automatically start getting into rabbinic concepts, whether they know it or not. And it's hilarious. I'll ask them about it. Like, where'd you get that from? I don't even know. I don't know. Some people will be honest and tell me they got it from rabbinic sources and whatnot. But here's what I'm saying is when you look into it, hold on. When you look into it, there's a set of really, really negative concepts, and then there's a set of how, I won't say negative, but more realistic. Because there's a lot of inaccuracies when you look at the European concepts when you follow the scrolls. But let me get into it real quick. Some people come at me with this, right? The Babylonian Talmud reads this: the sages taught 3 violated the directive and engaged in intercourse while in the ark. So prior to this, there was a directive is to not have sex while on the ark, is what they're saying. And all of them were punished for doing so. They are the dog and the raven and Ham, son of Noah. The dog was punished in that it was bound. The raven was punished in that it spits, and Ham was afflicted in that his skin turned black. This is what people call like one of the curses of Ham. Now, this is nowhere in the Bible. This is all speculation from the Babylonian Talmud. And the thing about the Babylonian Talmud is this. It starts in 500 AD, right? But it's something that got redacted for centuries upon centuries upon centuries upon centuries upon centuries. It's not scripture in any way, shape, or form. No one sees it as scripture. And for people like me and Dayvaughn, who uphold the Torah hard, right? Like, he's Torah only. I uphold the Torah and other scrolls, but when I rock with the Torah, I don't rock with the Torah and Talmud. And now that it's he. We let the text tell us the story. We let the text tell us what's going on. We don't tell the text what's going on. That's things like commentaries like the Talmud for the Tanakh and whatnot, and then things like the Hadith for the Quran. That's outside people trying to tell the scripture what it says. You know what I'm saying? That's a cold concept. You want to say something?
Yeah, let me jump in on that. I think the one of the problems with the people's concept of stuff, and let's deal with the Talmud. The Talmud is not the end all of the oral tradition. It's a compilation of many different things. Like, the Talmud quotes scripture. The Talmud gives arguments of rabbis. Some of those arguments have no verdicts at the end of it. Some of them have verdicts. It's got folk tales in it. It's got stories in it. It's got proverbs in it. It's got history in it. It even has Greek philosophy in it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't take everything that the Talmud, just like every book is going to have some truth in it. The Talmud quotes scripture, you rock with the scripture. When it's just giving you an argument, you can learn from the argument, but you can't use that as law. You can't draw laws from some of these arguments.
100%.
You see what I'm saying?
They're not the words of prophets. They're not a prophet saying that God said this, God said that. They're people commenting on what prophets said.
Exactly, and that's another thing too. Zion Lex breaks down the commentary on the actual what they would call the Mishnah or the scriptures in the Talmud. So you can't take everything you hear and apply it as law. You know what I'm saying? But I wanted to touch on something else too. Going back to dealing with King David and an African specifically. Now, everybody knows the story of David and Bathsheba. But what a lot of people don't pay attention to is who was Bathsheba's husband that David had killed? His name was Uriah, the Hittite. This is what it says. 2 Samuel 11:17. When the men of the city came out and fought against hold on. When the men of the city came out and fought against Joab, some of the men of David's army fell. Moreover, Uriah the Hittite. This is because if you go back up to 2 Samuel 11:13, it says David sent someone to find out about her. The man said, she is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam and the wife of Uriah the Hittite. Now, everybody knows David had Uriah killed, and David was punished for this. David was punished for killing an African or a Canaanite. Where's the discrimination there? It's not there. If anything, God says, so you know what? He was African. It don't matter. Take his wife. Don't say that. What was the punishment? It says, now, therefore, the sword will never depart from your house because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own. David was wrong, regardless of what color Uriah the Hittite was. So y'all just stop with this anti-African stuff. It's not in the text. Go ahead.
It's nowhere in the text. That's what I'm saying. And the only way you can try to pull from it, like you can try to force fit the text to say something, but the only reason you're even trying to do that is because you're trying to make it line up with the European source some way, shape, or form. That's just the bottom line. Like again, show me an African source that says what you're talking about.
Right. The Ethiopians claim they got the Ark of the Covenant.
Come on.
But obviously they know what the Ark of the Covenant is by reading the scriptures. So how come they didn't find it? So you're saying, and Moore brought this up, you're saying you are you telling me the whole African nation that supposedly, and we know as far as I know, and I could be wrong, Moore can probably quote or correct me on this, Ethiopia is the only unconquered African nation over there now. They're the ones who say they got the Ark of the Covenant. So they all missed out when they read in the scripture that the Bible is anti-African?
Right.
Why did David have to go to a Jebusite to make an offering to appease the Most High?
Come on. Like why was a Jebusite even there to be able to make to help him with the offering? You know what I'm saying? Like I thought he's supposed to be ran out the land.
Right, because remember one of the first things I read was the Jebusite will be a part of my people.
Right.
That's
and he wasn't just nowhere. Where he was on Mount Moriah kicking it.
Of all places. And
come on now.
David's coming to him.
Right.
How come David just, and he was even humble. Was like, you know what, whatever you need, I got it. David still broke bread with him. Was like, nope, I ain't doing this for free. How much money you need? What you need?
Yeah.
This is for the Most High.
I got to break you up. Just like when Abraham got the field for Sarah with us. Like, no, I can't get it for free. I got to break you up.
Exactly. Broke bread. They breaking bread. This is, come on, man. I mean, we can go on and on and on, but we're not seeing. And the thing is, we're bringing up all the arguments that they use. We're not just giving our perspective. We're telling you why they say such things. You know what I'm saying? So if you got a source, and just for the record, Nasi Yashaville broke this down too, and Zion Lex touched on this. The even if you go into the sources of the Talmuds, we know that they have been commentated on by Europeans after they have converted. The Talmud was written 1,000 years before the Ashkenazis converted, or the Khazars, or however you want to term that. So whatever commentary they added to it, that's the commentary that they added to it.
Right.
So you see what I'm saying? So and when you go into the terminology, it's like anything else. It was written in, as far as I know, they was written in Aramaic. There's two Talmuds, there's a Babylonian and a Jerusalem. So you got to go into the time frame of how the people are writing things and what they mean by, you know,
the culture. Like if I tell you my pockets is broke, and somebody from 1,000 years in the future see that, they can be like, how do your pockets break? Were they made out of glass? No, it just means you ain't got no money. So if you don't know the culture and how people are speaking to one another, then some of these concepts they say is even over your head to begin with. So I think, when Moore broke it down in the beginning, I mean, he made perfect sense of, even in the African cultures, you got African kings using monotheism and making that the law. And then you got monotheism being outlawed by other African kings. And the Torah has always been straight monotheistic. And of course, we know Israel was commanded to be monotheistic, but they rebelled.
And got lit up every time they rebelled.
And got lit up. We know that they worship the Most High and other gods. So saying that Israel is, there's so many, and the thing is, Israel copied the Africans so much in so many different ways. They begged for a king to be like the nations around them. And we know they was around the African people. Go back to Genesis 10. Look at who ruled the surrounding areas that Israel was dealing with. They was all Hamites and Canaanites and Babylonians and Cushites. I mean, come on now. These was African peoples that they were around. And they wanted to be like them. And the Most High said, I'm going to separate you from these people. You're going to be over here. You're going to have your own land. I'm going to make you as a light to the people to draw you near. And even if you go back to 1 Kings chapter 8, it says that people will come from all over because they hear the Most High's name. It don't say except for the Africans. It don't say, oh, if the Africans come, don't show them no love. No, it says give every man according to what he desires of you. Every man. Go ahead.
Yeah, somebody in the chat was talking about this curse of Ham you can't find in the Jerusalem Talmud. See, that's why I'm pointing out this whole Babylonian concept. And that's why Brother Dayvaughn's talking about, like, that one's also been revised and redacted for centuries and whatnot. Like Europeans was on that one forever, just adding on to it, the commentary on top of commentary on top of commentary on top of commentary. You know what I'm saying? That's not law, it's commentary, right? But again, like, so here's the deal, right? Like, so that Babylonian Talmud, that goes back to 500 AD, right? So when you look at the liturgical practice of the African Jews, the African Israelites, right? That's older than that. That's the whole point. Like, so they're talking about like stuff like the Book of Jubilees and all other type of stuff, right? The Book of Enoch and things like that there, right? They have books like on the Testament of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They got all kind of stuff that's not in other traditions, right? But when you look at their stories and their scrolls, even with the Christian text, right? Even with some of them, they got some stuff though. They have some stuff about like the Ethiopian Jews also recognize the writings of Adam and Eve, etc. and whatnot, right? And when you check the dates and all this stuff, they're older than the Talmudic dates and whatnot. So the thing about it is, like, so if I'm gonna look at a liturgical system that's outside of the Bible itself, right? And I'm of African descent myself, right? I'm an Israelite, but I can't knock the fact that I got African DNA. Any one of us takes a DNA test, it's not going to come up 0% African. That's not how that one's going to work, right? That's not how that one's going to work. And we're like, Africa's a continent; it's not a nation. So let's get that one straight, right? But beyond that, I'm saying this, right? Hold on, I just got something on. Bottom line is this. Is no matter where you go back to in this whole thing, right? I forgot what I was going to say, but I'll just jump back to this. Our laws got one source, and the source is supposed to be the truth, right? Either they add up or they don't. And there's nothing about our laws that are anti-African, nothing whatsoever. There's nothing about our laws that describe Africa or people of Hamitic traditions as anything less than. Anything less than. Like, my brother gave a bunch of great examples to what we're talking about on that, right? But again, like, so if truth is but one, why ignore the African traditions and go towards the European tradition or something when the African liturgical system is just as old, if not older, and it provides a different perspective? Like, to me, it seems anti-African not to consider the African literature. Whenever I bring up the Ethiopian school, a lot of people try to be like, well, no, they got all this stuff from the Greeks and whatnot. You know what? When you're talking about the New Testament, you actually have some people got to argue. I can rock with that. We can talk about that one all day, but nobody can deny this concept that every liturgical system that deals with the Torah says that their scrolls came from a translation of orated Hebrew. All of them. You got three independent sources saying that. You got the Syriac people saying that. You got the Greeks saying that, and you got the Ethiopians breaking that down.
Hey, real quick. So everybody knows I'm Tanakh only, but for argument's sake tonight, we're talking about the Bible in general.
Okay.
Now, this is Acts 8:27.
Oh, snap.
So he started out, and on his way.
See what y'all done made the brother do? See what y'all done made him do? He had to take y'all through the whole. Y'all done made him have to go to the whole book to show y'all what's going on. Bring it out.
The trunk on him. Like, oh, snap.
So he started out. He started out. This Acts 8:27. He started out, and on his way, he met an Ethiopian eunuch, and an important official in the charge of all the treasury of Kandake, which means Queen of the Ethiopians. This man had gone to Jerusalem to worship. Like I was saying earlier in 1 Kings, everybody's going to hear the Most High. They come into Jerusalem to worship. An Ethiopian, and guess what? This Ethiopian got baptized on site by Philip. So why would the scriptures be anti-African if Ethiopians is coming to Jerusalem to worship and being accepted? How come Philip didn't say, you know what, man? I feel you. I know you the queen. You rock with the queen of the Ethiopians. You her little treasurer, but you black, bro. Kick rocks. Nope. He was accepted on site.
On site.
So how is that anti-African? Whether you want to go in the Tanakh or the New Testament, the Bible itself is not. It even says in the New Testament that from one man God made every nation of man that will be acceptable to him if you keep the laws. So even in the New Testament, it doesn't have that concept. So I'm just not, I'm not following where they're getting this from. From one man, he made every nation a man. So it's just not there. Whether you want to go old, new, you know what I'm saying, front, back, side to side.
Just never mind. I was gonna say, go ahead and finish. Then go ahead.
Acts 17:26. From one man he made all the nations that they should inhabit the whole earth, and he marked out their appointed times in history and the boundaries of their lands. Like I said, you can't take what the Most High appointed for somebody else. So if he gave his land to the Hamites, that's their land. He gave his land to Israel, that's their land. He gave his land to the Moabites, that's their land. From one man, he made all the nations. It don't say except for the African. He don't like you. Go ahead.
Nah, you showing everything. You showing this whole concept of geographical location, right? And this is something that I try to talk to the brothers about a lot. Is you got to understand that everybody got their portion, and then once you start overstepping your boundaries in any way, shape, or form, either trying to seize some territory or worshiping things you're not supposed to do or doing however you want to do it, then the Most High gonna deal with you on that level, right? And I'm gonna let y'all keep building because I don't want to overdo what y'all doing, but these concepts that y'all bringing out are so important because we keep seeing certain accusations being brought out that have no sustainability. Like, you got to be able to substantiate some of these things that you're saying, especially if you're calling this Bible anti-African when it's clear that it's anti-idolatry, right? So, I would love to see some brothers address some of these things. I would need to talk to Sal because I know some people are asking for the link. I know there are some brothers right now who technically aren't allowed on the platform because of certain things. So I would need to talk to Sal about that. But plus, this technically is not an open discussion today. This is just a build between the two brothers. But don't worry, we will be having open panel discussions where other brothers can get on and build. But I just want to make that clear today. This is kind of just a build between these two brothers, not trying to keep anybody else out or anything like that. But this is something that these brothers have been working on, and they wanted to kind of wanted to bring the information out. I don't want to get off topic, but if you can kind of tie this into I keep hearing this. There's a question, all right, about the Canaanite, what we call council of gods or something like that, as opposed to what we see with the heavenly host. Can you even go into detail about how that's even an African concept? Maybe more if you wanted to touch on that a little bit.
Give it a bit more context.
So a brother in the chat said that Israel stole Canaanites, I guess, stole the Canaanite belief system. You know how they got their whole pantheon of all the gods that they deal with, as opposed to when you're dealing with an Israelite monotheism or monotheistic or even monolatristic belief system. Can you explain how this would be African in nature? And I think you did earlier, but some people maybe got here a little late. And also how, I mean, I'm just gonna be honest with you, saying people stealing stuff, you gotta prove authorship, right? I don't see the Canaanites practicing like this, but we do see monotheistic or monolatristic beliefs in Africa, correct?
So here's what I'm going to say about it, right? If you want to say we stole something, like, first of all, like you have to prove authorship, right? And so you got to do a damn bit more than saying, okay, this God is called El over here, and I see El in your Bible. Okay, cool. I got you. You got it. Is the function the same? Is the role the same? Is everything else? Is the pantheon the same? Is the council the same? Mm-hmm. Right. And this is why I say, like, you're going to see the same concept in the Nile Valley, in Mesopotamia, in Arabia. You're going to see people looking at the same set of gods as everyone else, saying, you know what? I see what y'all are saying, but y'all got it a little bit off. We're seeing this one God here, and everything being subservient to that one God.
And that's the point I wanted you to bring out and show how that concept is African.
Yeah. Again, I already brought out the Akhenaten concept, right?
Right, exactly. I just wanted you to give a quick review because some people pulled up late. You know what I mean? Just to show how this concept is not anti. Come on, buddy. This concept is not anti.
It's part of African history. I mean, you can't deny it. I mean, for a good solid 2 decades, you know what I'm saying? Your man Akhenaten was doing the whole one God thing. I mean, he shows up in the 14th century BCE, and he looks at all the literature that everyone else is looking at. You know what I'm saying? He comes to the concept of, hey, you know what? I see what you're saying, but you got this wrong. We're worshiping this all wrong. We need to be worshiping this one concept over here, not focusing on anything else, and not making idols to it. Akhenaten looks and sounds just like an Israelite prophet. He shows up on the scenes like, check this out. We can't, no more idols. You can't even make an idol to the Aten, right? You know what I'm saying? You can't even make an idol to that, right?
Right.
And he goes to the worship of the one God. And so,
and just so I'm clear, when would Akhenaten? When was it? When's the time frame of Akhenaten? Because I'm just gonna go ahead and poke some people real quick.
Okay, so you're talking from the 1350s to the 1330s, or 1330s was his reign.
Right. And so, according to all the research that I got, you would be looking at an Exodus. When I really go in and prove this concept, you will be looking at an Exodus around 1440 BCE, 1450, somewhere in between that range. So if I'm not mistaken, that's before Akhenaten, correct?
Yes, sir. And what's interesting about Akhenaten is Akhenaten, he moved his capital to Amarna. You know what I'm saying? And when you go check out Amarna, there's these Amarna letters there.
These cuneiform tablets, right?
Written in Akkadian cuneiform. Well, it's interesting. So they're written in Akkadian cuneiform in a Canaanite dialect.
Wow.
Canaanite dialect, right? And what they say is roughly around a certain time period. You just mentioned that there's these people called the Habaru, like thumping heads in Canaan and whatnot.
In Canaan, right? And I mean, and they come in there sounding a lot like them Israelites. And considering the time frame, that would have been right after that 40-year wilderness wandering, right?
It seems like it.
It would seem like it. I just wanted to point that out. So this concept of anti-African, it's got to stop, bro. This concept of these people didn't exist. This concept, all of these concepts, we are going to start to reclaim in a proper way, not even in the sense of trying to attack anyone, but just in a sense of trying to have true scholastic conversations where we are properly dealing with time frames, we're properly dealing with all of the archaeological information, right? All of the proof text that we have in the Bible, right? I just want to, if we're going to have a conversation, let's have it fair across the board, right? If you're accusing someone of plagiarism, prove it. If you're accusing someone of being anti someone just based on their color or based on their nation or race, prove it. I think the brother Dayvaughn did an excellent job. He made an excellent point of, why am I going to create you, put you in the backyard, then punish you for being in the backyard?
Speak on it.
You see what I'm saying? Like this concept of, oh, you got to be punished because you're black. Bro, that's what your oppressor is giving you, right? This is the same thing that you see your oppressor using to try to influence you, to try to make you think that you don't have the rights that you are guaranteed and given in this book. But you got to go live them out. You got to go walk them out. You got to go practice them. So, I'm not going to really go in because I think y'all brothers are having an excellent build. But that concept of this being anti-African is I think y'all killed it. I think it's dead. And that's the reason you won that debate. So y'all can keep going.
Let me touch on something that you brought up about as far as plagiarism and history of Israel not existing. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. For people not familiar with the Taylor prism is a stone that's got the carvings of Sennacherib, an Assyrian king, and he tells how he took cities from the king of Judah, which is Hezekiah. Now, why would you be talking about taking something from a people who never existed?
Never existed, right?
So now, if you go into the Tanakh, you see Hezekiah in the book of Kings giving the same story. That Sennacherib came and laid siege and took this stuff from Hezekiah. So, and this is why the scriptures are so objective. He even tells when Israel is taking L's. It don't just glorify Israel through the book. It tells you they was messing up, and that's why the Assyrian was able to come and take stuff from them.
That's what you call a truth test.
Exactly. It even tells you when they was out of line. So you have an outside source from an Assyrian king who tells you the same thing that Hezekiah goes through. Now, I want to touch. I got a question for Moore. Then I want to make a statement. Moore, you brought out earlier that Abraham's sons was from Hagar, right? She's an Egyptian, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the Midianites, would you consider them a black people?
Yeah, from Keturah. They're called the Ethiopians.
Right. Okay, so now we know Canaanite, Ethiopian, Cushite, they're all Africans, and we know people move around. So to specifically say, oh, that's Canaanite or that's African or Cushite, you can argue about, who was actually in the land at the time and who was the author, because we know these people mix with each other too. But that's not the point I'm making. So I want to go to Exodus 18 and 11 to say that Israel stole some type of governing system from the Africans or the Canaanites, or whatever. It's not true, because we brought out earlier, plagiarism is when you don't give credit, right?
Thank you.
Now let's go into this. This is Exodus 18:11. This is Jethro, the priest of the Midianites, not the Israelites, the Midianites, and he's called a priest.
Thank you for bringing this out. Thank you for bringing this out.
That doesn't mean he was a Levite. It just means he was a priest, because the word priest can be translated as prince, ruler, all types of things. Okay, so Exodus 18:11. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all the gods, for he did to those who had treated Israel arrogantly. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and other sacrifices, and Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat a meal with Moses' father-in-law in the presence of God. Now, the next day, Moses took his seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening. When his father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, "What is this you are doing for the people?"
Why do you alone sit as judge while all these people stand around you from morning till evening? Moses answered him, because the people come to me to seek God's will. Whenever they have a dispute, it is brought to me, and I decide between the parties and inform them of God's decrees and instructions. Moses' father-in-law replied, what you are doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone. Listen now to me, and I will give you some advice, and may God be with you. You must be the people's representative before God and bring their disputes to him. Teach them his decrees and instructions and show them. Go ahead, bro.
No. I thought I was on mute. My fault.
Okay. Teach them his decrees and instructions and show them the way they are to live and how they are to behave. But select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Have them serve as judges for the people at all times, but have them bring every difficult case to you. That's like a minor court and a Supreme Court, right? Small claims court and a Supreme Court. The simple cases they can decide themselves. That will make your load lighter because they will share it with you. If you do this and God so commands, you will be able to stand the strain, and all these people will go home satisfied. So now we see credit given to Jethro, the priest of Midian, who at this point is recognized that the Most High is God of all gods. But he's the one that gave Moses some advice on how to run the court system. So the Israel did not steal it. It told you it was given to them from a priest of Midian. It gave the credit. So where's the theft at? That's called being honest. It could have just said, and Moses decided, you know what I'm doing is too much for me. I'm going to do this. But no, it clearly says Jethro, the Midianite, Moses' father-in-law, gave him that advice. No plagiarism.
Right. So he was learned in all the ways of the Egyptian. The Torah that came down to him were laws of Emet, laws of Ma'at. And he was advised in a governing system by a Cushite Midianite priest of the Most High God. I don't see nothing anti-African about that.
Right. If I'm anti something, I don't want nothing to do with what you're talking about. Take your little advice of your judges and go back to Midian with that.
Right.
Moses set it up. And we got a Supreme Court today, and we got a small claims court today from it.
Yeah. That smashes any claim of plagiarism right there. Like it's said in all spots where it comes from. Not even where it comes from. What it so where it comes from, what it's sister with, who was the author of the laws, all that type of stuff.
Verse 24. Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said. I mean, it's right there. It doesn't say, and Moses decided for himself.
Right.
And again, he's telling them something ethical to do. He's telling them choose honest men. You can't copyright choosing honest people.
Hold on. It doesn't say just choose honest men. It says choose men of Emet. Choose men of Ma'at. That's what it literally says in the verse.
So you see what I'm saying? It says trustworthy men, trustworthy, the truth. It says right there, who hate dishonest gain. Choose some real ones, as we say in the hood, right? This is what is going on, y'all. You got to read the text and put it in real time. There is no plagiarism. There is no anti-African here.
I'm glad you brought that up. Cause so you got a Ethiopian, you got a Cushite man telling my man to go choose men of Emet, men of Ma'at. And that's his counsel. He says, check this out. I'm gonna give you counsel and God's gonna hear you. It's cool. Don't even worry about it. I got you. Let me go into the game, young man. I got you. Hold on.
And this is a priest. This ain't just anybody. He was the priest of Midian.
Right.
He was running the show.
Moses went to go stay with this priest and then came back and schooled the cats that was in Egypt.
Right. He was already up under his wing. He's the one who showed Moses love, gave him his daughter, Zipporah.
Right.
So, I mean, and this is a side note, and this is actually, I want to say it's in one of the Talmuds. It says Moses lived among the Cushites before he went back to Egypt to free Israel. So, you know, that Oh my goodness. If you study, you good. If you don't study, you can hear anything and it's gonna sound good. Like it says in Proverbs, everything sounds good to somebody come along and cross-examine you.
I know that's right. I know that's right.
I mean, with that being said, man, I mean, I don't want to drag this out because I think the points are made. I don't think there's nothing to, I'm sure there's questions, which is fine. We're not here for that today. I'm sure, the debate talk season is going to come back. I'm sure Moore is going to have his own lessons he's going to do in the future about this. I'm sure he's going to get a million questions from from his community. If I can make it to those discussions, I'm with that. But I think the points was made today. I think the information was brought out. We didn't give opinions. We gave scriptures. I read everything that I said today. I read it out the book. I didn't leave nothing out. We even dealt with the hard questions. You know what I'm saying? Dealing with, and just by the way, Noah is the one who cursed Canaan. God didn't do that. Noah said that. But we know there's a verse that says, when a righteous man speaks, it will be granted him. Now, for whatever reason, it says Noah was righteous in Genesis chapter 6 and 9. Is why he was saved from the flood. So out of righteousness, Noah spoke something that he felt was right at the time. And the Most High obviously approved it at the time. Now, just because it says cursed be Canaan, of course, we see that all the Canaanites were not in fact cursed. They were living among Israel. They were serving in the armies. They had kings and queens. They even got to smash on Israel at times because Israel was out of pocket. And Israel had to serve them at times. So again, it's all about who you are in your time frame, what you're doing, and how you apply the laws of the Most High. He shows mercy to you, or he goes hard on you, depending on the situation. So across the board, Israel got punished, Egypt got punished, Cush got punished, the Philistines got punished. Everybody gets what they deserve because the Most High is righteous. That's what it is.
Yo.
Yes, sir.
I'll be good. I'm be good. All right, look. Excellent build today, brothers. I want to thank both y'all for coming out. You know what I'm saying, sharing the information, bringing out powerful information. I hope this is an example to the family of how we can start to build and kind of get beyond some of our differences in order to really start exploring the beliefs of our forefathers, especially if we believe in this book, whether you believe you're a spiritual Israelite or a physical Israelite or however you want to put it, you still got to take these people as those that would have came before us. And so we now see Moor being an actual Moor, believing and coming to the understanding of an Israelite, having a belief in the Torah, having a belief in the Mashiach. Brother Mays, I'm not sure whether he believes he's a spiritual or physical Israelite, but he does cleave onto the Torah, cleave onto the law. He is believing in a coming Messiah, right? So we do have a difference in who we say the Mashiach is, but yet and still these brothers can get on here and build, right? So this is the concept. This is how we grow. This is how we start to come and explore each other's belief systems. And at the end of the day, these brothers have proven, in my opinion, that the Bible cannot be anti-African. So with that being said, I'm gonna give the brothers a chance to kind of tell you where you can find them at, where you can find your work. We'll start with Brother Dayvaughn Mays. Go ahead and tell the people how to find you, how to get in touch with you.
Okay, shalom to the audience once again. All praise to the Most High God of Israel. You can check me out. You can find me on designpoetrygroup@gmail.com. I'm transitioning from that email into cloudsoftorah@gmail.com. So either one of those will work. You can check me out. Everything I have is available on Amazon. I'm in the middle of revising a lot of books. I only have a few of my Confusion of the Gentile series books available, but they are the ones that are available to let you know if it's live or not. The other ones will be coming back soon. I'm just doing some revisions on them. But you can find me there. You can find me on Sal's show. I got archived lessons on Sal's Showtime, Debate Talk for You. The few debates and lessons that I did on Solar Vision, they're not there anymore. I don't know if he moved them to Solar Vision Live, or for some reason I don't see him on there anymore. So if you saw any debates of me in the past, you can't find them, you might want to reach out to Solar Mind about that, because I don't see them when I go to the links. But you can find me there, and I think this topic is proof that those who subscribe to the Canaanite doctrine, we see that that's exactly what the Tanakh tells us about them, as far as the Canaanites will turn you from God and have you worshiping gods your forefathers did not know. That's exactly what we see happening today. So, which is proof in the Tanakh that the prophecy is fulfilled in your eyes. This is what the Canaanites are known for. Not that all the Canaanites were wicked, just like Israel was the kings of Israel, which was like Manasseh. They made Israel to sin. So you can have people that will make you to sin when they're teaching you an error, when they have an influence over you. Some people are very easily influenced, because if somebody's telling you, oh man, you can do whatever you want to do, and then you go over, like if you stay with your mom and she lets you do what you want to do, and you go to your dad, he got rules and stuff, you want to go back with your mom. That's just human nature. We want the easy way out. So if you got the Canaanites telling you, "Oh, do what you want to do," you know what I'm saying? You God, or they got you believing in a new God and put the Tanakh down. If that's what you feel you need to do that. But there's going to be consequences for turning your back on the Most High, going against Him. And I'm gonna leave it at this: the Most High raises the arrogant up to destroy them. So I would not be surprised if this specific movement even grows even further. But the Most High does raise the arrogant up to destroy them. So just let that be known. Because it says, when you turn against Him, prepare to meet your God, O Israel. I gave you mercy, but since you didn't listen, you're going to have to come see me. And it says in Deuteronomy chapter 7, I show loving kindness to those who keep my commandments for 1,000 generations. But those who hate me, I will pay you cash to your face to destroy you. Shalom.
Out. Yes, shalom, family. So, yeah, I am the Orthodox Moor. You can get at me at theorthodoxmoor@gmail.com. You can also get at me at the Orthodox Moor on YouTube. That's my YouTube page. You can see me very frequently at the SVDO Live and the Solar Vision Debate League pages and whatnot, debating a bunch of good topics with a bunch of good brothers over there with a bunch of good belief systems and whatnot. Having a bunch of good, interesting conversations and whatnot. You can also see me building with the YHWH War Machine. Go check them out on YouTube. Go check us out on YouTube. And you will definitely see me here in the future on Debate Talk for You. So with that, family, I appreciate Debate Talk for You for letting us be on the platform today, as they have in the past. I appreciate my brother Anonymous Hebrew for hosting the show, and I definitely appreciate my man Dave Mames for coming through and just bringing the fire from the heavens. Because they've all said conclusively, there's no way you can listen to this and come to the conclusion that the Bible is anti-African.
Big facts.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, Anonymous, for hosting. I appreciate you more for reaching out. Appreciate you, Sal, for the platform.
Hey, brothers, hold on. After I end the live, I want to build with y'all for about 5 minutes before
no worries.
Before we jump off. But shalom to the family, or shalom is peace to the family. If you want to find me, you can find me on Sal's platform. I have a show on there that will be coming back at the beginning of the season. You can also see me debating over on Solar Vision Debate League. Shout out to Solar Mind for giving people that platform to debate on. You can also find me on the YHWH War Machine channel. That's the brothers that we build with. You can also find me at Anonymous Hebrew on YouTube. I'm currently working on a new Facebook because these cats didn't hack my account. Hating on the brother so much, but it's good. It is what it is. The Most High just wanted to go a different way. If you have any questions, reach out to all of us. We are all available. We all want to build with you. We want to give a shout out to Brother Sal and to debate talk for you. The brother BA and his show, the Man Up segment. Sister Ashanti and her show, the second quarter. Brother Amiyan and brother Gabar with their show. I want to say spiritual food or spiritual soul food. Please forgive me for not having that one straight. I will have that one straight next time we go live, which we will be doing a lot more now, family. So kind of keep your eyes on the notifications. We plan on bringing you a lot more live content. Peace to the family, peace to Sal, and shout out to everyone. So with that being said, if all minds and hearts are clear, y'all go forward. Y'all be strong in the Most High. Keep your heart clean and stay away from all of these haters. All right, so peace to the family. Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Shalom.
Hallelujah.